It's not going to revolutionize a business. It'll give you that extra maybe 5 or 10%.
I think we are going to a keywordless future.
You learn a million things from failure. You learn very little from success.
Taking that step back and not just running towards it just because it's something that everyone else is doing.
That it gets it wrong so much. It really confidently says it.
Do you think AI is eventually going to take marketing roles? So welcome back, Chris. Episode 4. We're churning through these.
Mad.
What's going on? What's new?
Firstly, I can't believe it's episode 4. Like, we are flying through. I feel like we've just got so much to talk about. It's great. Yeah, like my life is just crazy at the moment. I feel that it's this time of year where everyone feels like they need your support because it's peak or because they're coming to the end of the end of the calendar year and they just need to get their sales in a good place. So it's been crazy for me. I'm trying to just keep up a lot of my health and fitness as well on the side. So I just do like normal 5K part runs. But I hear you got something as well that you got going on as well, right? Tell me more.
Yeah, it's I'm actually coming to the end of it pretty soon, but I've been doing 75 hard. For anyone out there that hasn't thought about doing it, it is absolutely mental. 2 workouts a day, 1 indoor, 1 outdoor, no drinking, nothing like that, and also read a book, 10 pages a day, and keep to a diet plan. So yeah, it's been pretty busy, but yeah, it's nice to get that focus back. And I think for me, I'd lost a tiny bit of momentum with fitness and like diet in particular, and this has really helped to get me back on track. Hopefully, looking back through these episodes, I'm going to see a bit of a change from episode 1 to episode 4. But yeah, it's been really positive both mentally and physically.
Class, man, looking good. It pays off. It's like commitment, I think, is everything, isn't it? So yeah, well done. And do you get Christmas off, or are you going to be done by Christmas?
I'll be done by Christmas. I can't remember when we're putting this out, but I may be in South Africa when this is out. But yeah, at the end of South Africa is when I can actually drink again. So we're going to go do some vineyard tours, which will be really nice.
Amazing. That sounds epic. Treat yourself as well.
Can't wait.
Sounds like a good old treat. Epic. No, really good. This episode's a little bit different, isn't it? I think, like Nick said, we've just got so much feedback, which is great, and thank you all for your feedback. We are relatively like new podcasters in a lot of ways. We're not necessarily born presenters and from a young age, but we really enjoy this, and people have fed back some really great things, and some advice here and there, but also just some like interesting things that we might have missed out, maybe not have given as much detail to, or just something that's on top of their mind at work, because we don't work with agencies and brands like in-house in their office every day working with all these teams, and there's so many nuances that people come across that they just are interested to get our feedback on, which I'm honoured to give, I guess. So yeah, I know that you've been kind of collating the questions, and hopefully we can go through them and answer some from you guys.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've actually, if I don't think it's in shot, but I've got my phone here and I've got the questions, and there's some meaty questions in here for us to answer, which is quite nice to have the feedback as well. And yeah, like you said, we're not podcasters, or we are now, but not naturally. And I don't know, it's quite cool to see people are receptive to this. And yeah, I don't know, it makes me feel very warm, I think is a nice way of putting it. And it's nice to see people engage as well. But I think one of the bigger ones, and a question that is something that somebody's sent in, but also a question that I hear quite a bit, and it'd be interesting to get your take on this. I think we both think very similar, and it's one that everyone's heard of. Somebody's asked, do you think AI is eventually going to take marketing roles or marketing jobs?
So the fact that they put marketing on there makes me instantly makes me think no. Within the industry, if you were to take out the word marketing, yes, there's a lot of jobs where it's natural. I don't know if you saw it the other week, literally the other day, something called Neo. And it's basically a robot that, and I don't know how complicated this is or how much it can actually do because it's just a promotional video, but there's a physical robot that will go around and use AI to understand what your dishwasher looks like and fill the dishwasher, empty the dishwasher, it'll fold your clothes, it'll do the washing up, that kind of thing. Pretty mind-blowing, right? Makes you think in 10 years, our cleaner's going to be around. And it's an interesting one because I think it's really complicated for an AI machine to learn specifically what one person's dishwasher looks like over another, navigate stairs, navigate dormitories, and all of that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of risk associated with that. So what if they knocked over a candle? Who's responsible for that house being set on fire? Is it the robot? Is it the person? It's there's some grey lines there. But when you look at those sorts of jobs, you go, are they at risk? Maybe. I'm not sure. But from a marketing perspective, there's just so much where it'll strengthen our ability to do stuff, but I don't think it'll take marketing jobs out, like by and large. So I definitely think that people that are using AI, marketers that are using AI, will win in job interviews over people that aren't. But I don't think AI is out to kind of cannibalize what we're doing. Is that what you reckon?
Yeah, I think I'm very similar. I think I can speak from a marketing perspective, and I generally do feel that we're not we're not seeing the death of marketers in in some, but I think we are seeing the change of marketers, and I think it's quite common. We've been moving with the times for the past like decade or how long I've been in marketing, like
Mm.
from manual keywords to the rise of social search to now AI has been is a hot topic. All these things have said they're going to kill something, and they haven't, which is, I think it just shows that it's probably not going to be as as damning as people are making out. But I think you will probably have a difficulty in the future if you're not keeping up with
Yeah.
AI or automation or becoming either a bit more techy or a bit more creative. If you are being just an activator of paid ads accounts, I think that that's probably where the challenge will arise. I think it's showing that value to the businesses that you work for or you work with, which are some of the, I suppose, bigger points for me of how to probably keep relevant within this changing world.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of the AI space as well, I think we've seen it before, and we are seeing jobs, be, I suppose, taken by AI, but then given back. Do you remember the Fiverr example that has
Yeah.
recently just happened? And I believe they've got, is it Bartlett? They've now got to do some ads for them, to try and like, we need to get people back using the platform because I
Yeah.
think they probably saw a massive decrease. But I think it was in the 90s or early 2000s with bank tellers where we used to transfer documents physically from one place to another, and then the invention of the computer, or should I say the commercial computer, came about, and they found that no longer did they have to transfer files by taking it from one place to another, like A to B. They actually found that it was they could do it sat at a computer, so it didn't take the job away. It just made the productivity of the job of the people a hell of a lot better than it was before. And I think this is probably where we're at with AI, where we're going to see an evolution of productivity gains instead of taking away from jobs in the marketing space. I
Yeah.
can't speak for other industries particularly
No.
too much.
No, that's it's the same common thread that we've been talking about the last few episodes, isn't it? Of the human element is so
Mm.
important. Like AI is not here to just wipe the planet of the Earth away. We need humans, but AI can all make us do that, but things in a
Mm.
better way. So yeah, there's so many industries now where people are worried, and we talked in the last episode about filmmakers and stuff like that. That's going to be an interesting one where AI kind of really takes its grasp. I think it's going to mean that they can afford to do better films. I'm kind of
Yeah.
see it in a really positive light rather than people losing jobs. But equally, that the Stephen Bartlett point on Fiverr is a really good example of AI is going to cause a lot of companies to get some really bad PR. And
Mm.
actually, if you're a PR person, that's a great opportunity
Yeah.
to go in there and actually fix things, right? So it's going to create opportunity if you
Mm.
think about things in the right way.
So like obviously like we're mentioning here that AI isn't going to take marketing jobs, but I think we're both hinting that it is going to change them. What do you reckon are your top tips right now for keeping relevant with the change of AI within marketing?
So the main thing is, I think because it is changing so quickly, is keep a news tab open on your computer. Things are changing every day.
Mm.
The stuff that we mentioned, I think in episode 3, they were really fresh. But actually, in a few months, there's going to be something, maybe a different tool that comes out that's even
Mm.
better. We talked about, good old NAN or NAN, as we like to say. That is a tool where we talked about just before the episode. Like there are other tools, even ChatGPT, that is kind of allowing that same kind of methodology of working. So always be looking at, don't have shiny object syndrome. That's probably not what I'm saying here. But always be having a look at what the next and best thing is that you can use that makes you better and quicker at your job. That's probably the main tip. But equally, don't just dive straight into things. I think we talked about in episode 1 of really saying, don't just necessarily dive into things. Just have a look at what you actually
Mm.
need. Start off small and then build naturally. Again, just pointing out one of the other episodes that we had. You've got someone in your team who's really proactive and creative.
Mm.
You can't necessarily teach that, but be the sort of commercial cog within your business, be proactive. And I think you'll go a long way if you try and help people solve problems rather than asking a load of questions. So I know that's a bit artsy fartsy, but I'm really passionate about people making a difference in a business rather than just pushing a few buttons.
Oh, 100%. And I think I'd probably round it off to say, like, be proactive with how you approach things, whether that's AI or other things. But in the AI space, proactivity is a big thing, and try and test, but take that step back and think about what you're trying to solve. And I think you're 100% right. I love it when people come and like, I've got this problem, but here's a solution, but I don't fully know how to do it. And then we can work through it as a team, whether that's me or other people, and actually start educating us all together
Mm,
while we're learning through. But I think it's the thing is getting people to do that when it's AI involved. People feel somewhat hesitant to do it now and again, and I
yeah,
think enabling people internally to do that, whether you're at a business or you're working with clients, is a huge thing. And I think being somebody that's an advocate for AI, but not a advocate for AI on the front end of taking roles, but from helping people do better, is going to be such a good skill in the future. Those soft skills really matter, right? And I think incorporating AI into your soft skill is probably, it's going to help a hell of a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Like, take that leap of faith. Be proactive with things. Don't necessarily shy away. And it is hard for, particularly introverts. And I look at myself, and I definitely sort of perceive myself as an introvert. It is hard to just to step up and stand out. But equally, what I was saying to someone the other day was, if you go to your boss and you say our CTRs are up and our CPCs are down, they're not going to care. The only thing they care about is profitability, commercial success, and being able to have a business that can stand up on its own 2 feet and run and pay the employees. So there's an element of there of just don't stay in your lane, be the go-to person. And really interesting meme, a funny meme that I kind of pulled out during my talk the other day was, remember the Jackie Weaver meme of the guy going, "You have no authority, Jackie Weaver."
Yes.
Pulled that one out, and I had no authority when I was at AO. I had a real passion to make a difference, so I just went in any other lane and just started just doing what I wanted to some degree. You learn a million things from failure. You learn very little from success. So don't be scared to just go and get stuff done.
100%. And I think I'm just going to circle back to finish this point off where you mentioned about being introverted. I'm naturally introverted as well, and I come across quite extroverted to a lot of people. This podcast and doing the public speaking that I think both of us have been doing over the past, year has really pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I'm pretty certain our first and second, episodes, they were good, but we saw so much room for improvement. I think that whole thing of like, it's not perfect, and we've actually learned a lot from the mistakes. Hence, we're back at Outset Studios. Big shout out, great place. But yeah, I think it's nice to see that even AI as a podcast has allowed us to, flex our more, I suppose, creative muscles in a safer space for two introverts that don't particularly. I wouldn't say that you don't like speaking to people,
No.
but I've got a low social battery, and I think you do as well. Where
Yeah.
I can't wait to hibernate after being at events. So yeah.
I was at an event the other day, and honestly, it was like 9 to 5. And as great as it was, it's kind of draining speaking to people. And you don't have your own space just to tackle emails, reflect on the last talk, whatever, and stuff like that. And I'm really passionate about having your own space from time to time. So yeah, I'm completely agree with you with your way of thinking. I think just as well, like all the stuff that goes around podcasting, like you've got quite a big interest in mics and technology and how things all work together. So it's just like enjoying yourself at the end of the day, isn't it?
100%.
Another question we had from a listener was, what do you think AI means specifically for keywords, but also queries as well?
It's interesting as this. I think we touched on it slightly in our previous episode around AI Max and about the change that we are seeing within Google in particular and Microsoft, I suppose, to an extent. But I think that AI is going to. I think we are going to a keywordless future. I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're seeing the grassroots and the early signs that is the direction we're going in. With PMAX coming in, taking more infantry and more, I suppose, campaign types up within the actual platform itself. But then looking at AI Max, where I generally do think that it's going to be the sunsetting of DSA, having AI Max there. And I think we're not there yet, but I think keywords are gonna be less important. I think we're gonna see more relevance around things like categories, themes, and other things like that. And I think we're seeing that in search term reports now. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty certain there's now something that allows you to look at the theme of a search term, and that's pretty damn new.
There are tools out there as well that will able to, and I'm not sure how they do it, but there are third-party tools out there that will sort of pull up all of these URLs of all of these news articles, and they'll give you a keyword that's associated with that article. So for example, you can sort of bid against people that have been on certain news websites or looked at certain topics, and it'll say, right, they're probably interested in like handbags, let's just say, or they're in market for handbags. And you can target people based on the web pages they visited, which is really, really interesting. I think my view on the whole keywords and queries thing, and this is something I brought up to someone recently, was I think queries and keyword lengths are going to get longer. If we all remember the kind of the Google echoes and dots that came and invaded our space a few years ago, they were pretty terrible at answering our questions, maybe apart from like, what's the weather like tomorrow? But now, when you kind of integrate the rise of AI and contextual analysis, they're far better at giving you an answer than just what's been spat out online. So it's going to mean that a lot of people are more comfortable using these things and putting something in that is 10 or 20 words as opposed to just 2. That's exactly why AI mode has come about, is to answer those queries with AI overviews at the top of the page as well. So what does this really mean for me? Well, I was thinking keyword queries are going to go up. I think impressions across longer tail queries are going to go up. But equally, I think the CPCs across longer tail queries are going to go up. Historically, what we do is we put our 3-letter words in as exact match and go, we want to bid on these because loads of people are searching for them. And anything else, let's just leave to DSA, let's leave to broad match, let's leave to PMAX and AI Max. But now I genuinely think, as a bit of a takeaway, go and put in longer tail queries
Mm.
as exact match into your campaigns, because I think you'd be surprised at the actual traffic you get through. Historically, we'd have Google that just says, there's not enough search volume for that. I'm not going to bother showing it. I think those times are changing pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's a really good take actually as well, and something I've not necessarily considered of actually testing that, which I'm going to be taking and testing,
Nice.
of moving into exact match. But yeah, I think it's the type of queries and the way that people are searching is becoming a bit more conversational. I'd say somewhat lazier as well, where people aren't. I'm getting lazy with it, where I'm not like before. I'd be like, I want this size shoe, I want this product, I want it in this color. Where now I'm like, what's the best shoe for running, and I end up with a pair of like Asics or anything like that.
Mm.
Like the type of search is becoming, I suppose, more ambiguous in nature, which means there's a lot more heavy lifting for people like you and I, and search practitioners to really get involved with.
Yeah.
And with the rise of obviously ChatGPT is now going to have ads at some point soon. 2026 has been touted, and we're seeing them appear in AI Max, and feeds are becoming a bit more important as well.
Mm.
I think we're going to see a bit of a change of like you don't just need to do keyword and query optimization for just traditional search. We're going to see it become a lot more prevalent in feeds and that side of optimization as well, where
Yeah.
product feeds are going to need probably query led optimizations,
Yeah.
which we've probably not done as much from a standard search point of view, like AI overviews or anything like that. But we have done in shopping. I think it's going to probably blend the optimization of both, maybe slightly closer together. I know SEOs have been doing it for ages in Merchant Center, where like we just need to optimize this feed to
Yeah.
appear the best, and we do it in extent, for shopping. But I think that yeah, I think it's going to become quite interesting to see what happens there, especially with the ChatGPT e-commerce feeds are already there,
Mm.
and is that going to become what advertising is going to be for those platforms?
Yeah, I can imagine the amount of data that it'll have on someone to justify recommending a certain product that will
Yeah.
probably be the spot on product that you need. It'll remember the dimensions of your house and give you the right door, or know what color you like, and give you a complementary like table that's very similar. Like the amount that it'll know about you will be crazy, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there. The
Mm.
feed stuff as well is a really interesting point. I've come across a lot of feeds where actually they have a description that's about 4 words long,
Yeah.
or they have an image that's the same as the other 20 retailers that are showing it. So the level of opportunity, what scares me, or what's actually quite exciting, is the amount of terrible ads accounts and feeds that are out there
Yeah.
that we can make a genuine impact with. There'll be loads, and all it takes is a Google search,
Mm.
and you can see if a product looks terrible or not. So maybe that's a sales opportunity. Go and talk to those people, because there are genuinely some great impacts that you can have by not even seeing an ads account, but just doing a Google search.
So we've had another question where somebody's asked probably the opposite of a question we've just answered, and they've asked, "What is AI rubbish at within performance marketing?" We've just waxed lyrical that it's changing the way things are like people search, changing the way that we're probably going to optimize towards it.
Yeah.
But what's it actually really really bad at doing at the moment?
I think like a lot,
Yeah.
a lot, and a lot more that we don't even know about yet. Because it's so early on. It's only been around a few years, and even some of the basic stuff. It was, it's only a few years ago it could really start to write a story. Now it can then do some text, and it's now only starting to be able to
Mm.
do video. But everything else it's terrible at. Even still, like I don't know how many different models you've used at the moment, but it's still doing like it can't do fingers and faces and all that kind of stuff in video, and it's just not quite there yet. But I am starting to see a few ads that are being done
Mm.
by VO3 on my feed, and they're not half bad. They're not as good as what you do in a filming studio, for say, but it is getting better. But so I'm going back to the point about what's it's terrible at. It's context as well. I think we talked about this in the last episode, but it's really just going off some of the data that it sees on your context or query and giving an answer that would maybe be suitable for the masses, but not for you. So I think really it's just about using these systems and then keeping answering and keep it questioning it, and it eventually will get the right answer. But it's not great at giving you what you need straight off the bat, which is almost to the
Mm.
point we made before about crap data in, crap data out. If you're giving it really terrible information, it can't give you a very good answer.
Mm.
But I think the more it learns, maybe that'll change.
Yeah, I completely agree with crap data in, crap data out. And I think this is how I probably wanted to answer this point when I was pondering. I've had a bit more time than you because I've I've gathered these questions, and I know you're coming into them somewhat fresh. But I think the bigger thing for me of like why what is it bad at? I think it actually comes back to the user itself and the person using AI. Like, what are we bad at? Like, are we great at writing prompts at the moment? A lot of people aren't. Try, I try to like learn how to write better prompts pretty much every week. I think it's a big part of what I do now, which is quite sad and quite fun at the same
Mm.
time. But I think it's the whole data neatness. It's not very good at reading bad data. It's not good at understanding a prompt that's, badly put together or doesn't give enough context. And I think it's more of how can we give it better insight and better data, better quality to actually get better results out of the back end of it as well.
Really good
Especially when you
point.
see people that are like giving it data that isn't matched correctly. Like you'd have different titles, you'd have missing data sets, you'd have different cells that mean different things. You'd have different numbers. Like for example, you could have like a pound in one of them and then like a dollar in the other. It's confusing to AI without that context and that example. So I think it's actually that we're so early on as commercial AI that's now available for everybody that we're still learning how to use it, how to prompt. I
Mm.
think we're probably going to see a change with AI where it's going to become better at dealing with, I suppose, lazier or less succinct prompts. But ultimately, it's still going to struggle, and we
Yeah.
need to get better at that. And I think that's where the terribleness comes from. But on the other side, it's looking at those images and like VO, for example, and looking at some of the ads that you've mentioned. Some of them are really good, but I'd say a lot of them you can tell that it's AI generated, and
Yep.
it's just a bit sad to see because I'm like, you're spending a lot of money on these campaigns, and then you're just
Yeah.
putting in some absolute trash tier creative. I think that's what it's actually really bad with at the moment.
The
Is the creative and the actual, I suppose, understanding what creativity means. It's just regurgitating what you tell it with other references that it's already got, stored in memory. And that's not really going to change anytime soon. So we as users and practitioners need to get better at feeding it better data, better examples, better ways of, engineering it to do what we want.
mm,
Bit of a juxtaposition answer to probably what this person has asked, but I think it is true. It's all human led, and we need to get better at using it for the things we want it to do.
Absolutely agree. The other thing I was just thinking of then is because I've had a few minutes more now to think about it, is it's really bad. I don't know if you've ever been on a, like, I don't know, let's say you bought a new phone and you need a bit of support because it's not working properly. You'll ring up the tech team and you realize it's actually being answered by an AI that's telling
Mm.
you what department you want to go in, maybe even giving you an answer how to fix your phone. And that's really terrible. But the other thing, if I take my marketing hat off completely, is it's really bad at anything physical that requires some level of complexity.
Mm.
So it can build things in machines. It can build machines in factories. It can build cars. It can put packaging around food. The stuff that's exactly the same, but as soon as it has to do with personalization or complexity,
Mm.
it really struggles. It can't play football. It can't climb stairs very well. It can't, make your tea for you. It can't be a chef. I've seen some great videos, by the way, of it trying to crack eggs and absolutely miserably failing. But the point is, I think it can maybe do that in 5 or 10 years' time.
Yeah.
The people out there that are trying and investing millions of pounds into making these robots. We talked about the Neo robot on the last episode that will quite scarily go around your house at night or when you're not there to fold up your clothes, etc. Maybe it'll vacuum your house and do the dishes.
Mm.
And the fact that people are doing this is really exciting, but right now it's pretty terrible at those things.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that we always have to remember when we're recording these is that what we're saying is like a very much of a today thing. Like I think we're both very, very aware, and we need other people to be aware that our thoughts now are probably going to change vastly into the future. And I think we're both very much of like
Mm.
we can't predict it. And when people are like, we predict AI is going to do this, it's quite often
Yeah.
unfounded because like none of us really know the direction we're moving in, especially in performance marketing. Like Google are bringing out new tools, obviously, Microsoft are. Then we've got, the other players in the game that are doing it as well. But
Mm.
things are moving in such a, fast, I suppose, fast pace at the moment.
Yeah.
Especially if you look at, we've literally spoken and been doing this podcast for what, about four months or so now,
Yeah.
and it's changed massively from our
Yeah.
first episode to now, where we were talking about, oh yeah, like this is some cool things to do with ChatGPT. We've had MCPs become widespread. We've had ChatGPT release its own search engine. Google's released AI Max. Like those are three examples that are quite big, but there's so many more that have existed, and it's such a short space of time.
Yeah, and what's next as well? And again, it'll probably be released by the time this episode's out. But ads in AI overviews. I know
Mm.
they're already testing it right now in America. So when you're watching this, it might already be out. We've shot ourselves in the foot here. We've done a podcast about AI, and things are going out of date quicker than you can say AI.
Yeah.
But I mean, we are really passionate, and we're on the bleeding edge of technology. Like we're really on the front foot of what's actually changing. And in a way that kind of puts us on the back foot because the stuff will get outdated very quickly. But equally, that means there's so much exciting stuff that will
Mm.
replace that we can then talk about instead. And as long as we're keeping you guys up to date, that's all we really want to do, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. I think just leading it back into what AI is bad at, it's as bad as us for keeping succinct to actually of the question at hand. But yeah, no, it's I think it's good conversation irrespective.
Yeah. So interestingly, and I'll call him out by name because great guy, Callum Clark. We've actually had a question from him, and it's all really about. And he raises a really good point. And there's a lot of pressures, I think, for businesses to harness AI. They hear about it all the time. People listen to our podcast and showing it to the boss. They're going, "These guys are talking about AI. We must do it." So within businesses, they're going, "Yep, let's do it," and they don't really know where to start. But on the back of that, there's significant pressure to do AI, I think, within the industry at the moment. What are your thoughts on kind of adoption of technology and the pressures that come associated with that?
Yeah, it's a really contentious one at the moment as well because I think we should all be adopting or starting to use things like AI or any form of tooling, or you should always be testing and learning from whether it works or not. In a recent talk, I literally said test or bin it off are the two things, and I think that we need to do that. Just because AI is new and fresh and shiny doesn't mean that you shouldn't have been doing it to start with. But I do have a big problem with businesses, and shall I say probably C-suite, that seem to just want to implement AI and they want it there because it's like the magpie effect, that they've seen it and everyone's talking about it. So it's like, we need it. We've spoken about it on, I think, a previous episode or separately around these third party tools that are just slapping AI onto a product that already exists that really doesn't need it. And it's that whole thing of like, just because it's there doesn't mean that you need to use it. Find the use case for it and actually start testing in that sense. So I think the pressures for adoption feel paramount. They feel bigger than they ever have been, but that's purely because we've probably got people that don't necessarily understand what they want to do with it, which means that as a business you need to really assess and build in frameworks or assessments and roadmaps of where you want to go with AI. I'd take it a step back and align it to your business plan. It's not an AI strategy, it sort of does become part of your overall business strategy of where you can employ it and where it can be there.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the biggest part for me, is that take a step back, look at how you actually want to implement it and see what it can do and try solve business challenges. Where PPCers by nature, or paid media people if we go a bit broader, our whole job is trying to solve business challenges with media, or paid media in particular. I see this being no different with AI.
Yeah.
Try solve business challenge with AI and work back that way. What are your thoughts, though? Like, I know that it's quite a big and divisive topic, is this one?
It is. The advice that I would probably give to people is like, in the words of Dad's Army, like, don't panic, Mr. Mandarin. Like, do not panic. Everything's going to be okay. And realistically, adoption of AI is actually surprisingly slow, particularly within big companies. They've got a lot of red tape, they've got a lot of uncertainty, and they've got, frankly, a lot of shit on their plate that they need to deal with. So the fact that they're not doing the latest and greatest of stuff in AI isn't necessarily a bad thing. They know what they're doing, and they know what they're doing works. What I see AI is that kind of next incremental small step. It's not going to revolutionize a business. It'll give you that extra maybe 5 or 10% if done correctly. And actually, we've all got to think about the big risks that come associated with that. So I would almost say, if you're getting a lot of pressure to kind of really advance and go to the next level, take a step back and I think just look at the ethics of it, look at the morality of it, look at the legals of it, and look at maybe some of the pitfalls before you go jumping into a new tool. Because I think, like we discussed on the last episode, ChatGPT's new browser potentially has some security flaws that may be fixed, maybe not. They might not even exist. But I think we've all got to go into it with a really open mind of what are actually the drawbacks here.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think it's taking that step back and not just running towards it just because it's something that everyone else is doing. Like, you raised a good point. There's a lot of, like, I suppose, monoliths in the industry that huge, that are just not even like using it on a wider scale. And do you know what? They probably don't need to, because it's not part of their development roadmap of, do we really need AI? Does Asda or any of the other big supermarkets need an AI for online shopping? Probably not right now, because it's not necessarily needed. In the future, is it a nice to have? Yeah, of course it is. But there's fundamental fixes that they probably want to put in that will improve user experience and journeys over somebody having a chatbot that allows them to understand what's in stock and what isn't in their local Asda. And I don't know why I went to the Asda route there. I'm actually a Lidl man by name. Yeah, I feel like Asda was one that I feel that would probably be the ones that like use it first, just for Walmart thing, innit?
Yeah, complete random segue, but I came across a really interesting prompt that I wanted to share actually. So shout out to Matt Beswick, Quality Bearings Online, and he was obviously part of Performance Manchester. He's actually done like a Brighton SEO talk, so fair play to him.
Big
He's
up,
got
Matt.
that slot, and as you know yourself, having spoken at Brighton, it's a pretty big gig to have. He did a really good prompt into ChatGPT that I saw the other day, which is all around like price scraping and competitors price scraping. I know that there are a lot of tools out there that will charge you a lot of money to go and price all these. But actually, if you just ask ChatGPT to do it, put your 50 top SKUs, ask it to do it, and put it in a table and who's bidding on it, it actually does a really good job of it.
Mm.
And it takes you, again, it takes a few seconds to do that as a prompt, completely free. Anyone can use ChatGPT. So if you're ever kind of like in that realm of, I had a great example the other day where, or maybe it was a few weeks ago, where our ROAS fell off a cliff, our sales fell off a cliff, and we were like, was it the fact that we changed ROAS from 283 to 285 as a target, and we were looking at our ad copy and our disapprovals and everything like that? Actually, it was nothing to do with that. A competitor had dropped their price by £1 off the RRP. That caused our things to absolutely tank. So if we'd been more like on it with price competitiveness,
Mm.
that's definitely something that I'm taking away as implementing my strategy.
Yeah, no, I think interesting segue, but a very good one as well. Just to add on that as well, big shout out to Matt. He is he's a feed wizard, as I keep calling him. Like, he
Mm,
definitely knows his shit about feeds.
it does.
But on the Amazon side of things, I actually use ChatGPT pretty much every week to do competitor reviews for Amazon, where we've got so many SKUs. It's an incredibly competitive space in the gifting space, and it just looks at other competitors and looks at their price, and it logs it from week on week to then see whether it's gone up or down. And it does a similar job to, if you remember back in the day, there was a tool called Camelizer, which was
Mm.
a browser plugin which allowed you to see the price change on Amazon. But it allowed us to understand, like, even though we're advertising, whether we drop in or out of like buy boxes, or whether we saw other advertisers have more compelling or competitive sales and more competitive pricing. So yeah, it's really really useful. So big shout out to Matt for doing that for for his company as well, because it's cool to see. So to finish off a last question, I've actually got a question from my stepdad Mike, who works in a completely different sector. Is actually in the social housing sector, is a consultant within that, and he's started to play around with AI. He's many moons ahead of me. He's actually is 660 odd now, I believe. Big Mike is a real good lad. But he asked me the question the other day, is like, what do you think the biggest impact AI is having outside of the marketing sector at the moment? Because obviously he sees it from his point of view, and the social housing game is quite slow to pick up. But he was mentioning other things in the the wider market that are causing challenge, or potentially being
Mm.
a bit worrying. I think one of the bigger ones was education, which I'm not sure if you've had a look at all.
I was going to say exactly the same, to be honest with you. So, a slide that I actually pulled up with someone the other day was, what are people using ChatGPT for? And there are different
Mm.
buckets and different segments. A lot of it is for things like help and advice, tutorials, writing, all stuff that's basically them trying to learn and do something. And actually, really interestingly, shopping was like 2.1% of it in like a tiny little box. And I do think that'll change.
Yeah.
But if we think about ChatGPT's, let's say between 3 and 6% of the search market, relatively small, then you've got within that people looking to shop is 2%. So you've got the 2% of the 3%, tiny figures.
Mm.
A lot of people are actually not even looking to buy anything on these platforms. They're looking for education. They're looking to level up on something. And we were talking about in the last episode of, in some cases, that it gets it wrong so much, but it really confidently says it in a way that it's kind of scary a bit. So a lot of people are using it for education. I agree. It's a really interesting topic. Is that kind of what you were thinking as well?
Yeah, I think the way that we were talking about it the other day was very much looking at how it's impacting education as well. That we're seeing education systems, and the schooling system in particular. We're reminiscing back to when I did my A levels, and it was very much like book driven, but essentially highlighting in books repeatedly, and that isn't really as much as a thing anymore. I can't speak because I don't have children, but from our anecdotal understanding of having nieces and nephews, of seeing other people do it, that people are relying a lot more on things like ChatGPT and whatnot, and whether we need to change the way that education works more than anything. A very far removed thing from marketing, but I really like your point on, as marketers, like, it's going to revolutionize shopping, it's going to revolutionize this. We're very sensationalist, and I actually think that a lot of people, if you remove yourself from the marketing game, are using it from completely different things.
Mm.
But yeah, I do think that from an education point of view, and a learning point of view, the way that we teach people and the way that we have to exam people, or the way that we have to grade, needs to probably massively change, and we need huge reform to education systems in light of probably a new era of how people are learning. And I've got no idea of how we do it, but it's a really interesting one where the rise of people using LLMs to complete exams is huge. Like people,
Oh, yeah.
massively. Like, you've got plagiarizing checkers and whatnot, which I had at university. I imagine you probably did as well.
But
Where
they
you
were so
submit.
like no one used it. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
No one
it's
was
fine.
using AI back at that time, were they?
It wasn't even a thing. Like I remember using things like Spark Notes instead of anything else, and that was as close as you got to cheating per se. Whereas like I can get a whole synopsis of this book that I need to read. I studied English language and literature with linguistics, so a large part of my degree was reading. A large part of the degree was also Spark Notes. But if I had AI nowadays, would I just get AI to, read, like, say, Frankenstein or something like that, or, any form of Platonian theory and just be like, cool, can you summarize the key points of this so I can write something around it and make sure that I understand what it means?
Yeah,
So,
if I'm thinking about education, it's going to have to be a lot more about someone talking to you to grade you rather than a written piece of work, which is so easy to plagiarize or so easy to make up and maybe change some words around a little bit. Back in my day, not that I did this, but I know a lot of people at university, they just would outsource the work to someone else in a different country.
yeah.
Now they can just outsource it to AI, and I'm hoping that these plagiarism checkers and AI checkers are becoming more advanced. But it's still really difficult to change things because you could just put another prompt in and say, right, change these Americanisms, change my tone of voice, be more authentic, look at this article as a bit of guidance. Yeah, so it is really difficult to check. And I think as we look at education now, people need to educate themselves. There's no doubt about that. But the way in which they educate themselves isn't by cheating on an exam. It's by immersing themselves and then being able to replicate that and actually have a proper conversation with someone about the stuff that they learn is the way I see it.
Yeah, it pulls it a bit more human again, but it requires a lot more resource, effort, and I suppose time as well. And I suppose speaking of time, we are coming to the end or close to the end of this episode. I imagine, as we always do, Chris, you've got some questions for quickfire that I've not seen yet.
I do. So I've got 3 questions that I want you to answer. See how close you get last time on the last episode. You were spot on with one. You were pretty close on another. So there's high expectations here. And again, play along at home if you think you know the answer. First one is what percentage of Google searches now end without a click to another website? Do you reckon?
Oh, God, I feel like I should know this. It's about 30%, is it?
But quite much. It's 58% now.
Serious?
Yeah, it was
Wow.
22% in the US in 2022, and it's now like tripled. And
That's
it's mad, isn't it?
That's crazy. It makes sense. I think like the rise of AI overviews and the rest of it, and people going to other platforms are not even needing like even embedded videos within Google as a
Yeah,
platform now, which doesn't necessarily count as a click to a site.
yeah.
Like it makes sense, and the way that Google is going to have to change, and the way that we as advertisers are going to change is it's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, even the small things that I used to, it sounds really silly that I couldn't just find it, but emojis, I used to search for emojis and you can just copy and paste it now on Google without going through to a third party website.
Oh yeah, 100%. I used to do it all the time for MySpace when I used to need the TM sign. Funnily enough,
Good old MySpace.
so yeah,
Class.
that shows our age.
A little bit. Second question. What is the average reduction in website traffic some publishers saw after Google rolled out its AI generated answers?
Ooh, so this is going to be it's going to be more than I think then, because I was thinking probably around 30% again, but it's probably closer to maybe 60.
You were spot on with your first one.
Oh, was that?
You should have stuck with
Oh
that.
damn!
It's
I knew that stat existed somewhere. But
Yeah, got it pulled out the back of your mind. 30%
yeah.
exactly. I think reading it was between 20 and 40%, but on average about 30%. Depends on what the industry that you're in is, of course, but that was a broad average. And then the final question is when Microsoft first integrated GPT into the Bing search, by how much did Bing's market share increase, do you reckon, globally?
Ooh, I'm gonna say it's a huge. I reckon it didn't increase as much as I think, but I'm gonna say about 12%.
Okay, so it increased from 2.8 to 3.8%, which is
I'm
still
talking
like,
relative.
yeah,
Maybe
so relative is I'm gonna think about it. It's probably about 33%, right?
yeah, 33. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, pretty
It's
sizable.
it's huge.
Yeah,
As in a point change. That is massive.
it is big. It is big, and they've got a load of sort of unique things that those guys can do, like the whole LinkedIn targeting and how they've merged that in. So yeah, it's a really interesting space, Microsoft at the moment. I think yeah, you've answered them pretty well. I think.
I disagree. I think I'm getting further and further away each episode.
True, true. Well, you had the first one. You had that one of them nailed on there, but you've got like you've given yourself such a high bar. I'll have
Exactly.
to see how you do in the next episode. Maybe we'll have a guest. Maybe we won't. We will find out. But for now, yeah, great. Good for us to talk. I think that was a really interesting episode. Thanks again for all of your questions that you've given us. Please do send more in as well. We love to answer them. We love to understand what your problems are. And yeah, if you really enjoyed this episode, please do hit like, subscribe for the next one on YouTube. And if you're watching on Spotify, subscribe on there as well. Give us a little follow. It really does help more than you know. But yeah, that's it from me and Nick from the Pontoon Podcast. See you again on the next episode. And bye for now.
Catch you later, guys.